to my podcast on real relationships. My name is Sophie Passon and I am a relationship expert, international speaker and best-selling author of Your Other Half. I decided to start this podcast because in my opinion, relationships are currently not being portrayed as what they really are. Whether you're watching the news or on social media, the perception given to people is wrong, and my aim is to talk about what happens in the real world, talk about real stories, listen to what real people think, do or go through, as opposed to creating expectation of something that doesn't actually exist. I may not agree with everything that is said by my guests, but it is their chance to express their opinions and their stories. So here today we have Helen. And what we're going to talk about is self-acceptance. So hi, Helen.
Hi, Sophie.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm 45, in a happy relationship, running my own business and about to emigrate to Spain.
Okay, so to you, what is self-acceptance?
For me, self-acceptance is really being happy with all of who I am, quirks included. It doesn't matter that I'm not described as normal, and we'll perhaps talk about that a little bit later, because what is normal? It's a different definition for different people. So I've given up worrying about it and just get on and enjoy my life, live and love as I see appropriate.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. I think that normality is something that, it's a word that we use, but it means so many different things, and my normal would be very different to yours. To me, self-acceptance is, as you say, accepting yourself for like who you are. But obviously it's not always easy because pressures of family, peers, work. So I take it, obviously, it wasn't like that to start off with.
No, I've always been a bit of the black sheep of the family, as you might describe me. I'm the one that moved away. I'm the one that didn't want to stay and run the family farm and wanted to go off and do new things and have big, grand plans. So I found it difficult to leave the family behind and do something different. And then I had to learn to trust my own inner self and my own instincts and to go with the flow.
Okay, so what about when you were younger? What was that? You know, did you know from an early age that you were a little bit different?
Not so much sort of school age, really. I loved school. I'm one of those weird people. So I used to get called, square eyes and all that sort of thing, because I wear glasses and have done since I was 6. So I got picked on for being quite studious, really. And I'd always try to turn the other cheek and walk away from it, but it did hurt. But as a kid, I was really, it was all about the learning stuff, learning. I never grew out of the why stage, and I'd be forever coming out with an answer to a question for somebody else because I'd read it in a book. So I was different in that I was exploring new knowledge. And I knew that, but I was very comfortable with that part. So I guess I've always been fairly comfortable with who I am, but it's more about exploring the further of the different dimensions.
That's interesting because actually I was thinking about this the other day. I used to feel a little bit like an outsider as a child, like you, glasses from a very young age. And my parents were GPs in the local town, and I did feel that I was very different because they probably earn more money than some of the parents would. I don't think that in my behaviour I was in any way, different. But I faked that, and I faked that through school too, and in the workplace afterwards, because I was always, the only woman in the world of man. So I know exactly what you mean. How did you feel as you were growing up?
I was very much noticed the culture of work. So I picked up a belief, if you like, through my situation. My family are farmers. So it was common for my dad to be working 70 hours a week and often up to 100 or more during the busy harvest seasons. So I've had to shake off that belief that you only get some earnings if you work really hard. So it was also kind of we had plenty of space to grow, but there wasn't huge amounts of, I would say love, but that's not quite it. We weren't mollycoddled at all. We were sort of shoved out there to go and find out things for ourselves. And I say by we, I've got 2 sisters, and I'm the oldest of 3.
Okay. And do you think that you were, obviously, from what because I know you personally, but you also had different beliefs from a younger age that were maybe not accepted or understood?
Are you talking about my belief in fairies?
Yeah, that sort of stuff.
I've always said that fairies exist. There was a fairy house that we used to go and play with me, my sisters and the friends down the road. and I am dead certain that fairies exist. No one ever could shake my belief on that one. And to be honest, I didn't care what they thought because I knew I was right.
That's fair enough. And we were also talking about quirks and flaws, and I know that, especially in my work, much we have to accept our quirks. And for instance, someone very special to me one day, and I'm going to swear, I apologise, close your ears if you don't do that, called me a walking clusterfuck. And to be completely honest with you, anyone who knows me would agree with that, because I'm an accident waiting to happen. I could have taken it the wrong way, but I really didn't. I think in the same way where I'm really stubborn, that's the negative side of it. I can also be very resilient in times of crisis. What would you say your quirks are?
I think I've probably got a few. I'm very strong, but I also process externally, so I'll talk a lot just to help myself think. And I think those two combined can be a bit overwhelming for people close to me. They may think they need to do something when I'm talking at them, but I just need them to listen and just nod a bit or grunt a bit or go, yes, dear, that's absolutely fine. And when I say fine, I mean it. I'm not one of these strange people that go fine with a bit of venom behind it. Other quirks. I like control. Definitely like to control things and know what's what. So I'm quite organised, but other people might feel that they have to fit in with my timescales. And I also have a bit of a habit of my communication stops before it should. So I'll go, well, I'd like to do X, Y, and Z today. And then someone will go, oh, I don't fancy it. I go, oh, all right then. But I won't say, but that's really important to me because, and then push it, or what is it about that, and actually do that next stage. So I've had to learn to do that to make myself happy and therefore make the other people's lives happier at the same time.
Okay, that's quite interesting. And also I think in what you've just said is the self-talk. There's our own self-talk and then the stuff that we don't say. And I think self-acceptance really comes from our own self-talk too, because it's very easy to be so hard on yourself. Do you find that? Did you used to be harder on yourself than you are now, or?
Kind of. I'd set myself goals and then I'd get really frustrated if I didn't meet them or I didn't meet them in the right timescale. So I found it challenging in the workplace. So with my sort of thoughts on control, I'd want to know why my manager was asking me to do whatever it was my new objective was. And often they either wouldn't or couldn't tell me. And then that would demotivate me. And I'd find that really difficult. So I'd chop and change job to find the right manager. When maybe I should have realised earlier that you can't change other people. You can only change yourself.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think that there's certain types of people. I struggled too with management in general. I mean, I was a manager, but I really struggled not to be able to understand, as you say, why a decision was made where you knew it would not work and how, there would not welcome necessarily feedback from the ground up. But moving on swiftly with that is in terms of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, we are brought up with certain values. We are brought up with certain beliefs that are put onto us by our parents and our families and the people around us. And I think sometimes we can feel different because of that and because society wants us to be moulded in a certain way.
Yes, I think society is all about consumerism, materialistic things, and you'll be happier if you have more money. But I don't believe that to be the case. We need to be happy from the inside out. And if we want or desire more money, we can have it and it will flow to us.
And do you think that's quite recent? Because I think that, if you go back to the 50s, for instance, money was just there to provide a roof over our head and eat. And then obviously with globalisation and advances in technology, and I think especially for me, I'd say in the last sort of 5 years, there's kind of a cult of look how much money you have. I mean, you just have to go to Facebook and you get all these webinars, how I went from zero to £1 million a year and now I travel the world all the time. And I doubt that. I don't think, first of all, that it's true. But secondly, why should we aspire to have so much money that we don't know what to do with it?
Yes, I agree. Money is not the be-all and end-all. And if we want to travel the world, there are plenty of other ways that we can travel the world without lots of money. I do agree that consumerism is a new thing in recent years. In some ways, perhaps we lack a war. We haven't had war to concentrate our minds and have a united foe. So we're kind of almost, fighting amongst ourselves. And the media and the politicians seem to be they're driving demand the whole time. It's all about our particular economy in the northern sort of Western economy.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think also people need to understand that when they are watching the news, for instance, it is very much one-sided, where a lot of people just take it as read and that's the truth. For instance, obviously I'm French originally, and this morning I was watching a programme, the news, around fishermen fighting each other off, so English versus French. And whilst I could get the English guy's point of view, obviously they don't need to have rocks thrown out of their boats, I could also see where the French were not very happy because they're not allowed to fish whatever it was until another month's time, where the English are going in what they call their waters, which, I don't want to get into a political international debate around fishing here because I don't know enough about it. But what I'm trying to say is that I could see both sides of the same coin. But obviously the story was said in such a way that, the bad French heard the poor British, but if the same story was told in France, it would be completely the other way round, which is that, the poor French are being attacked by the evil British who come to nick the fish, scallops or wherever it was.
Yes, I agree. Every story has two sides to it, and most stories these days are presented to us as very one-sided. So we often don't take the time to go and collect a number of opinions or discuss it with people who have, shall I say, a brain cell and are willing to consider things from both sides. So it's important to look at things from a range of different sources and try to see the other person's point of view. And that's also, I think, part of the way that the world has changed. There are probably more of us who think about things and think about both sides of the coin to try to present a fair presentation to other people that don't have the time or inclination to do that. And
I think there's an element also, how can I put this in a nice way, of manipulation. And it's not necessarily, even in take it a normal relationship kind of setting, we want our own outcome. So we will try and manipulate the other person to get to that, because obviously it's our opinion, so we believe it's right, and they might have a different one. And I think that if we extend that to the media, it's probably an element of manipulation of people, as you just said, who don't necessarily look for other opinions.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to sort of the core thing of self-acceptance, another one of my quirks is I buy the majority of my clothes from charity shops. Not that I necessarily can't afford to have clothes, but by doing this, I have the fun of putting together outfits that no one else will ever be seen in. And I'm putting a bit back. My £5 for a shirt is going to a worthy cause, rather than my 30 quid for a shirt in Next. It's just going to, the vast sort of consumerism. People think I'm odd for that, but to me, it's a no-brainer. Why would I do it differently?
And I think it's something that you enjoy. It's something that you believe in. Yeah. Where other people, some people are not creative and admit that to be able to put, as you say, an outfit together or see how certain things would work.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree, and I think we're losing our creativeness. Ed Sheeran was on TV in the last couple of days talking about how funding for creative arts is reducing. Yet it's creative people like Paul McCartney and artists who are staying in the UK to pay the taxes in the UK and really help the country go forward. So why are we being so short-sighted about stopping creativeness? Because again, these are the people that are going to bring the world forward and share their vision with the masses.
Yes, I agree. And I think, if we go back towards self-acceptance, these people are making a stand in what they believe in. And talking of which, would you say self-acceptance happened at an early age for you, or was it a bit of a journey?
I'd say it's a bit of a journey. So some things were quite straightforward. So, the clothing thing I've just mentioned, I've never been an issue for me. But doing things differently has always been slightly challenging, in that I chose not to have children. It's a deliberate choice, but I have two sisters, one of which who can't have children, the other one who chose to. And when your dad gives you an early inheritance, smashing, thanks very much, Dad, just in case you're listening, but he gives the sister with children twice as much, you're thinking, why is that then? Do you value your daughter with children higher than the other two? That seems a bit peculiar. So it's a work in progress, and I think it always will be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that in his mind, he's probably, she's going to spread that wealth with a kid, so she needs to have more. But I get your point. And actually, talking of the lack of children situation, I think there's more to come for those of you listening, because there's a few things going on in my head at the moment. But I think it's also, in terms of self-acceptance, whether you can have them and choose not to, whether you can't have them, whether you can't have them because of your circumstances, so being single at like 35, 40 and waiting for the right person. There's an element of accepting, what you can and can't do.
So we're talking about children and decisions that are made. So whilst I didn't think I wanted children, when I was with my last chap, we considered it. But we lived 110 miles away from my parents and 150 miles away from his parents. We were living quite okay on our 2 incomes. But to my mind, if you're going to have children, you need to spend some time with them. Otherwise, why bother? So one of us is going to have to give up work or go significantly part-time. And we just couldn't have afforded to live like that. We'd had to pay for every bit of childcare we had. So there was no way we could afford it. So the conversation never went beyond the first sentence on, shall we? No, we can't afford it. Therefore, it was never discussed and put to the back of our minds.
Yeah, which is fair enough. And I think that, that's a subject by itself. But I think that there's an element of self-acceptance that comes from that too. So how do you feel now? Because obviously, as we said, it's a journey. But how do you feel now? When do you think you reached that point where you were totally happy in your own skin and with who you were?
Oh, I think that's relatively recent, probably in the last couple of years. And now I'm with my current partner. He's been amazing, but he's had such a different story to me. He's had far more challenge in his life and been to far darker places. So I've had to learn to give him time and space without taking over and without trying to rescue him. And that's made me a better person. And I've just had to accept my own quirks and differences and his as well. And now we go forward together, knowing we're different people.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And also, I read a quote not so long ago, which was something like, I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm asking you to love me whilst I fix myself. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time, that's all we need is support from someone around us whilst we're doing it. We're not looking... Well, some people are looking to a partner to make it better for them, but the truth is that's never going to work. We need someone there to hold our hands whilst we walking through the path and the journey. So what advice would you actually give to someone who thinks that they're a bit different, thinks that they're a bit of an outsider, and maybe struggling to conform and feeling like they have to conform?
I would say do your best to stop trying to conform. All of us are different. What's normal for me is different to Sophie, different to you. So stop using the word normal. It's one of the most overused words in the British language and probably many other languages as well. Celebrate your differences. I'm sure each of your differences give you brilliant skills or different ways you are with people or situations or how you have fun. So celebrate those and don't look at the negative qualities. Yeah, if people can't love you for who you are and be with you for who you are, it's their problem, not yours.
Yeah, and I think that can be a cliche and something that we say quite a lot. And people think, in time they will love me or they will change. People never change. If they don't love you enough to accept you as you are, there's actually little point in trying. I think when I was younger, I used to try and maybe prove them wrong or want to show them that they were wrong. But the truth is that we're not going to get on with everybody.
Yeah, and I'd also was going to talk about friends. Mm-hmm. So we get brought up really being told that your friend when you're 11 or your friend when you're 20 will be your friend for the rest of your life. I don't believe that's the true or correct or appropriate. Friends come in and out of our lives depending on what path we're each on. So some friends will come into your life when you're younger, drift off for a bit, and then perhaps you'll meet up again in the future. Go with the flow, allow it to happen. New friends will come into your life to answer different things or for you to help them or just spend time with.
And I think that's right. And indeed, also in relationships, which, friend is a relationship anyway. I meant more in the romantic sense. But interestingly enough, because I've just had that where I had a very, very close friend who I met when I was 14 or 15. And it's not that we drifted apart. We just somehow didn't keep in touch. And it was quite interesting because I lost touch with her for 12 years. And when she gave me a mobile number because a partner found me to be the surprise attendee at her 40th birthday, I realised that actually I'd looked for her online and stuff, but her phone number was still in my phone. And I never tried to, well, I don't know, I suppose nowadays you've got like so many numbers you wouldn't know. Mm-hmm. But on the same token, talking of people and how they sometimes come into our lives at different points, I think you are a very good example because we've known each other for 5 years. Yes. And yet it was only because we got sat next to one another 6 months ago that we actually started talking properly and that now we see each other quite regularly.
Yeah, so we've now developed a friendship, as Sophie says, through a chance almost. So it's that our lives are at a similar point, I suppose. We've got similar visions for the future. So now we bounce ideas off each other, but we're just there for each other as friends. Yeah, if we need to talk to someone, then we might talk to each other.
And which is quite interesting because 4 or 5 years ago, we probably weren't at that point at all. Because, at the time, obviously, known to me, you were just about to divorce. I was starting a new business. It was completely different. And we probably would not have worked at all. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to ask you, do you have any regrets?
No, I don't think so. I think of regrets as things that you haven't done rather than things you have. Because if you've done something and it didn't quite work out, you've learnt something from it. It could be as simple as don't do it again. Or it might be that it's changed you as a person and you go forward on a different path. So no, I don't think I have any regrets. I
agree. I think also sometimes even the stuff that's really painful and hurts us is actually part of a journey. It is a wheel. It goes up and it goes back down. And then it goes back up and then it goes back down. So thank you, Helen. That's it for today. If you enjoyed the show, if you have any comments about our, talks about our views of the world or whatever, then please let us know. Also, please subscribe, give us a review and come back next week. Thank you very much.